Welcome back. Let's turn our attention now to Pakistan and the issue of Jammu and Kashmir that it has raised once again. Now, the former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Omar Abdullah, has told NDTV that statements made by the Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar saying that terror will respond with terror has given an opening to Pakistan to start this latest war of words.
In his statement, General Rahil Sharif also says our enemies are supporting terrorism to stoke sub-conventional conflicts and destabilize our country. Now, this is really ironic. This is Pakistan accusing India of supporting terrorism.
Look, this was going to happen, and unfortunately, we've given them this sort of high moral ground to take, because our own defense minister has gone on record to say that we will use terrorism to end terrorism, and terrorists will attack terrorists. This is exactly what I was worried about, because this gives the sort of garb of respectability to Pakistan to be able to claim that what is happening in their neighborhood is actually a creation of India. And therefore, I can't emphasize this enough, but I think that was a really ill-advised statement by our defense minister, because this is exactly the sort of opening that Pakistan has been looking for.
The BJP at this point would say, Omar, you're playing politics when you should be standing with India against Pakistan. You're blaming the defense minister for what is an outrageous statement from across the border. How can Pakistan get to say that India supports terrorism?
Unfortunately, we've given them that opening. Let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. I've never been one to weaken India's interests, but in this case, unfortunately, let's face it, the opening has been given to Pakistan, and they're exploiting it. The fact is that what Pakistan is facing is its own internal mess. Pakistan is the mothership of terrorism in this region. My state has suffered on account of terrorism that has been exported from Pakistan. Pakistan has suffered on account of terrorism that it itself has created. But now Pakistan is using the sort of, as I said, this cloak of respectability that is given to it by a statement that our own defense minister has made, and quite needlessly, I might add.
So you're blaming Manohar Parrikar for what Pakistan's army chief has said today?
No, I'm not. You're now extending it to everything the Pakistani army chief has said.
No, this particular statement.
Only this part.
This particular statement on terrorism.
This particular statement about on terrorism, there's no doubt that Pakistan, I mean, you saw immediately after the defense minister's statement that Pakistan stepped in and said, see, thank goodness, we now have an honest Indian defense minister who's owned up to what India is doing in the region. We knew this was going to be a problem.
But that doesn't make it credible. That doesn't make it a credible argument coming from Pakistan, you know, irrespective of how you see Manohar Parrikar's statements. I mean, this remains an outrageous
statement. We know it's not a credible one, but the fact is that it is our own defense minister who has said it. Our own defense minister has given this outrageous claim of theirs credibility. Up until then, it had no credibility at all, because it was just Pakistan claiming it. But now they have the excuse of saying, well, you have the Indian defense minister on record, and please remember, the defense minister hasn't stepped back from that statement.
But the defense minister spoke about neutralizing terrorists with terrorists. A strategy, by the way, you've seen in Jammu and Kashmir with counterinsurgents. We've seen this before. Neutralize terrorists using men who were once terrorists.
We've seen it, and it hasn't worked. Look, it was, I mean, whether you like it or not, whether domestically with regard to the Ikhwanis, who in Jammu and Kashmir will support the rebirth of the Ikhwanis? If that is what he meant, if he meant it internally, that's something that I think every right-thinking person in Kashmir will oppose, because we all know the havoc that Ikhwanis wreaked in Kashmir in the 90s and the early 2000s. And if he meant it externally, then of course, that's exactly what Pakistan was looking for.
Right, well, you can watch that full interview with Omar Abdullah tonight at 9:30 on the buck stops here. That's going to be on in its full interview tonight. Meanwhile, of course, the Pakistani General Rahil Sharif said that Kashmir is an unfinished agenda of partition. These comments were made today at a speech that he gave to the National Defence Academy in Pakistan, saying that Kashmir and Pakistan are inseparable. The contours of future wars are changing. Our enemies are supporting terror to stoke conflicts. We are fully determined, capable of defeating nefarious designs. We are opposed to the use of proxies against other countries and won't allow any nations to use proxies against us. He goes on to say that Pakistan wishes peace and stability in the region, but wants the Kashmir issue resolved as per Kashmiri aspirations. Well, joining me to discuss the Pakistan Army Chief's comments and, of course, the prospects of dialogue for India and Pakistan. From the BJP, we have Sambit Patra joining us. From the Congress, Manishankar Iyer. We're hoping to be joined from Islamabad by Talat Masood, Vivek Karchu, former diplomat, with us, and in the studio, G Parthasarathy as well. Thanks very much, all of you. Sambit, I want to start with you first. Your reaction to General Sharif's comments on Kashmir being the unfinished agenda of partition.
General Sharif may be hallucinating. He has every right of hallucination. But as far as the truth is concerned, the truth is separated from the views of General Sharif. And the truth is that the Indian Parliament way back in 1994 has passed a resolution, both the houses of Indian Parliament, that Jammu and Kashmir, the whole of Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India. And today we all stand by this fact. As far as the Pakistani counterpart is concerned, we are always aware of the fact that Pakistan, in fact, is a state of confusion. Pakistan is a failed state. So, in fact, statements by failed states should not be taken very seriously.
Right, Sambit, you're saying not to be taken very seriously. But if Manishankar Iyer, you come in on this, because in a sense, what we're hearing, and even something Omar Abdullah has said today, is that the Defence Minister of India made certain statements about neutralizing terror with terror, and that's going to provoke this kind of ratcheting up of the rhetoric from Pakistan. That's one statement. And the other, of course, on the elections in Gilgit and Baltistan.
What is there to say? We have accepted in the Simla agreement that there are issues relating to Jammu and Kashmir which require a final settlement between India and Pakistan. And yet, to arrive at that final settlement, a process of uninterrupted and uninterruptible dialogue has not been initiated since 1972. And so long as there isn't this ongoing negotiation between India and Pakistan, I'm afraid every now and then we are going to have this kind of oratorical rumpus. It is Pakistan's long-standing, long-held position that Kashmir is part of an unfinished agenda of partition. It has been our position, also very long-standing, that Jammu Kashmir is an integral part of India, and there's no question of our surrendering any part of it. But at the same time, since the Shimla process has advocated that we find a final settlement of these issues, I quote from the Shimla agreement, then we should be involving ourselves in a negotiation with them. If not, then the kind of statements that were heard at the National Defence Academy, you hear their counterpart in the Indian National Defence Academy.
All right, okay, you'll hear it over here if there is no ultimate move towards the settlement. Vivek Karchu, you've tried over years of your career in diplomacy to bring the two sides to the negotiating table. That has failed on several attempts in the past, and this kind of ratcheting up of rhetoric is something you're not unfamiliar with. Is there a provocation? Is it timed with something? Is there an outcome they expect from this kind of talk, or is it just routine?
Well, first of all, let me clarify. My understanding of the term final settlement of Jammu and Kashmir refers to India regaining the territories of Jammu and Kashmir, which are under Pakistan's illegal and forcible occupation. All that we are committed to, that we will not use force to do so. So there I would very respectfully disagree with Mr. Iyer. Second, I see a dialogue pointless when terror is taking place and when the infrastructure of terror remains. But as far as your question is concerned, I think General Sharif is trying to divert attention from his domestic troubles. The Pakistan army is engaged in a life and death struggle in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Baluchistan is on the boil. There is sectarian conflict and there is ethnic conflict in Baluchistan between the Baluchis and the Pashtuns. So there is a classic attempt at diverting attention. Second, I think there is a desire to put the focus of the international community on Jammu and Kashmir in the face of what I consider a perfectly rational policy adopted by the government of India, which was reiterated only recently by the External Affairs Minister.
Yeah.
The only wrong thing that the government, to my mind, has done was sending Foreign Secretary Jaishankar to Islamabad. I saw no earthly reason for the government
The
to
Sark
do so.
Yatra.
We've got to maintain our present postures on Pakistan, and as far as this rhetoric of General Sharif is concerned, we need to take it in our stride and ignore it.
Okay,
Yes,
take it in your stride
if
and ignore it. In
Pakistan-
fact,
my last point, if Pakistan wants to ratchet up,
yeah, go ahead, sir.
let me just complete, Maya.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
If Pakistan wants to create trouble in Jammu and Kashmir, we will have to then be responsive and responsive clearly.
Okay.
I
So,
mean, we are the larger party. We somehow always feel as if we are the smaller party in dealing with Pakistan.
okay, well, we have a voice from Islamabad in on this. Talat Masood joining us from Islamabad. Sir, General Raheel Sharif's comments today have evoked very strong reactions across party lines. They're saying that it's an irresponsible statement for him to have gone ahead and said that Kashmir is an unfinished agenda of partition. Having said that, it's a diversionary tactic for Pakistan, for Islamabad, taking away attention from its own internal troubles. Clean up your own house first and then point fingers outside. That's the message.
Well, I think it's very amusing if one would take it that way. Because, the Security Council resolutions still hold valid. The point that Pakistan was making is a point that Kashmir is a disputed territory. And I think it would be absurd to think otherwise, because, the position that General Sharif reiterated was the basic position that Pakistan has always taken. And so I do not understand in what way you people are taking it in a different spirit, because you don't want to see the real situation in Jammu and Kashmir. Actually, the resistance movement and the people there, especially the younger generation, the way for the last 30 years, it has been rising against the state, and you have not been able to control it despite the presence of such large forces. And then you want to place the blame on Pakistan. I think you have to look in the mirror, actually, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, but I think we need to be, both the sides need to be much more rational and not just engage in polemics.
All right, both the sides is to be much more rational. Sambit, I'll come to you in just a second. G Parthasarathy is waiting to come in with his...
first.
Mr. Karchu, Sambit Patra, Mr. Parthasarathy has been waiting patiently for all of you. I want to just ask you, both the sides need to ultimately come in and work to find a way together. There is clearly a distance in dialogue right now.
Who made this statement? General Raheel Sharif. Your viewers should know his background. He had his uncle killed in 65, his brother killed in 71.
Yeah.
That was his claim to fame. He became a favorite of General Zia Musharraf and rose to this post, though within the Pakistan army, friends have told me, there are better candidates. So he has to be loud. He has landed himself in deep trouble in a conflict in the Northwest Frontier province, where the Pakistan army is bleeding. He said he would finish them off within a couple of weeks. 7 months later, there are 1 million Pashtun refugees. Now, as for the unfinished agenda of partition that he has referred to, may I say the following. One, I fully support his statement of the unfinished agenda of partition. The unfinished agenda of partition is reflected in our parliament resolution that there is nothing to discuss except the return of territories occupied by Pakistan. Point number one. Pakistan already also has two other, and let me remind General Raheel Sharif and the likes, they also have two other unfinished agendas of partition. One, the border with Afghanistan. Even Ashraf Ghani, as friendly as he is to Pakistan, cannot accept the Durand line, will not accept the Durand line.
Right.
In fact, the Afghans claim their border lies at Abbottabad till the Sikhs took over and then the British took over. Then, Balochistan. The Balochis never accepted the 1954 integration with Pakistan, and therefore, today you have three of the major tribes, the Maris, the Mengals and the Bugtis, all up in arms. Raheel Sharif is fighting on all fronts in Karachi. So since the army is fighting in all fronts and failing in all fronts domestically,
so,
what better than to bring in India?
So essentially, the same argument that Mr. Karchu is also making, that this is essentially a diversion. Sambit Patra, you wanted to comment on Talat Masood's remarks. Go ahead.
Two quick reminder to my friend from Pakistan. Number one, the friend from Pakistan wanted to show us mirror Rather, they should be looking into the mirror, where they should be reminded of the fact that 67% of Jammu and Kashmir people voted for the Indian elections. That means, and it proves a lot, and I believe you should have seen the mirror there. And secondly, and very importantly, you talk of the UN resolution very often. I believe the UN resolution came to a halt the very day in 1972 when the Shimla Agreement signature, in fact. And secondly, even the UN has pulled down from its annual list way back in 2010 the unresolved issue of Jammu and Kashmir. So there's no question of a UN resolution today.
Okay.
One more point, if I may add. You know, I'm very General Masood is a man I respect. That I've known him for years, but I wish to draw his attention to one thing. This is the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, not just the Kashmir Valley. Okay, they seem to forget that. Second, they have changed the ethnic composition of Gilgit-Baltistan by bringing in a lot of people from outside. Third, the so-called elections they hold in Gilgit-Baltistan and the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, one by Gilgitis, the other by the Mirpuris, they are held under the terms of the Pakistan constitution, where everyone has to swear loyalty to Pakistan before he can stand for an election. What sort of election? We don't ask our people to swear loyalty.
Masood, respond to that. A, what sort of an election? B, why was Islamabad so bristly when India made that statement about elections in Gilgit and Baltistan on the 8th of June?
Well, I think it's really absurd to say that why should you have elections? I mean, what's the basis of having elections in India? What's the basis of
well, the
having
Pakistanis question
in
elections in Jammu and Kashmir all the time, sir, as well.
No, the point is that Jammu and Kashmir is a disputed territory, and what we are saying is that you should not consider the elections as to be the sort of an expression of their desire to stay with India. That's another thing altogether. So the point here is very different. I think you people try to mix the two things which are very different. You know, the people would definitely like to express their desire to have a certain type of a government, irrespective of whether they are under the Indian rule or whether they are a part of Pakistan. So that's another aspect altogether, because you don't want to deny them the normal rights which you and I enjoy as you know, in a democratic country. So I think we are trying to mix up all the things and not trying to understand the basic problem.
Okay, Manishankar Iyer, come in on that. In a sense, you know, my election is better than your election. Ultimately, we're all saying the same thing, and every time there's a comment either from Delhi or from Islamabad, we're sort of reinventing the wheel on the issue of dialogue.
Absolutely, you're 100%.
So I say this tutu meh between India and Pakistan will go on indefinitely. I don't think it has a constructive end. And it is inevitable that it will go on if there is no official dialogue between the two countries. And therefore, if you have the satisfaction of indulging in this kind of polemics, which interests only us and doesn't interest anybody else, then that's one way of running foreign policy. And that is the way in which we have been running foreign policy vis-a-vis Pakistan all these years. My plea is that instead of having to repeatedly discuss this on television, why can't we face each other and talk about this in a constructive manner aimed at trying to find some kind of a final settlement? A final settlement, in Mr. Karju's view, is that the Pakistanis are forced to accept everything that we have to say. And in General Talat's view, that we have to accept everything that they say. Now, I look upon negotiations as a process of trying to find accommodation between two points of view which are otherwise incompatible.
Okay,
that is the process of negotiation.
Okay, Sambit Patra, come in on this, because that is the process of negotiation, to be able to find a compromise.
May I come in on that, please? Just
a second.
Mr. Karju,
Just a second.
Just let Sambit respond and I'll come to you.
10 seconds. Manishankar Iyer ji saying that we are only engaging ourselves in rhetorics and polemics and not engaging in dialogues, composite dialogues, I would say it's not that Pakistan is singing poetry into our ears and we are still not engaging into dialogues. Had they really been singing poetry, then we would have thought otherwise. But with the kind of gun held onto our head, with the kind of terrorism that is being thrown to our side, it's but natural that we have to hold the dialogue that is very essential. And we have always shown time and again, the very first day Mr. Modi took the oath, we have shown our intention, which is to have dialogue, but then we were backstabbed time and again. And secondly, the day the instrument of accession was written in 1947, the very day the fate was sealed in a closed envelope. So I do not believe, Mr. Manishankar Iyer should disagree from the former diplomat's view, Mr. Vivek Karju's view, when Mr. Vivek Karju says that the only option left is Pakistan should vacate the land that it is illegally occupying.
Okay, all right, Vivek Karchu, come in on this because this can't be a Congress versus
May I come
BJP
in just,
position.
Maya?
Yes, Mr. Karchu, go ahead.
No, may I come in, Maya?
Yes, sir.
I would very respectfully submit to Mr. Iyer that as an MP who has sworn an oath on the Constitution, and the Constitution says that J&K is an integral part of India, then it logically follows that the only interpretation of Simla has to be the return of territory under Pakistan's control. How can Mr. Iyer overlook the dictates of the Constitution, which as a member of Parliament he has sworn an oath to, and which all of us as Indians have to adhere to?
Manishankar Iyer, respond to that.
I think our country has answered Mr. Karju's point over Kachetivu. It has answered it over Berubari. It's answering it now in terms of the Bangladesh border. If there is a decision on the part of the Indian government, especially if it's backed by the parliament, then there can be adjustments of territory. But under Manmohan Singh, we definitely demonstrated that without any surrender of territory or exchange of population, it was possible to work towards a settlement, a final settlement of the issue of Kashmir, and therefore to be completely closed in the mind and refuse to hold a dialogue is, I think, cowardice and not intelligence.
All right, Mr.
I would like
Parthasarathy.
us to conduct a discussion which takes off from where the Manmohan Musharraf progress had been made.
Okay, Mr. Parthasarathy, so the question is, where is the opening for dialogue with Pakistan? Because if you look at the last...
that is clear. The Pakistanis have repudiated that dialogue.
One moment.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah, Mr. Parthasarathy, go ahead.
Mr. Iyer is referring to
The Pakistanis say there was no such thing, no agreement at all.
Mr. Iyer is referring to a period between 2003 and 2007. There was progress in various issues, primarily because Musharraf stood by his assurance not to allow territory under Pakistan's control to be used for terrorism. 2008 came... Just a minute.
Can I enter in?
Just a moment, Mr. General Masood,
No. All right. 2008 shattered that. Then we had this farce in Sharm el-Sheikh, which was a diplomatic disaster. Now, I don't think any government in India today can hold a serious dialogue when we are threatened by terrorism, when even today people are being infiltrated across the line of control. And I wish to remind General Masood that just 3 days ago, or a couple of days ago, people were killed by the Haqqani network, which operates out of Pakistan, our citizens in Kabul. Pakistan is carrying its war against us into Afghanistan. Now, we are not going to stick that.
Okay.
So therefore, let the conducive climate be there. Let this terrorism end. Then we'll talk anything under the sun.
General Masood, that has been a consistent position, irrespective of government in New Delhi, actually, that, stop terrorism and there will be dialogue. The two cannot go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think you are stretching the point, to absurdity. I mean, what sort of argument is this that Pakistan is using terrorism? I mean, please listen to me first.
Sure.
You can then reply, please.
Go ahead.
I mean, do you really believe in what you are saying? Do you really believe that, the problem in Afghanistan of Haqqani network is as simple as that? Don't you realize that there is definitely a movement there? I mean, you can take different positions, But to say that Pakistan is using terrorism and Pakistan is a terrorist state, I mean, I think it's so absurd and nonsensical because the world is watching. It's not only just you.
May I answer you, General?
No,
I am not saying that. I am not saying it. Please ask the Afghan National Directorate of Security, who are the counterparts of your ISI. Their chief has said, Haqqani guys came across from your border and killed our citizens in Kabul. This is yesterday.
No, Maya, I just want to say, why does anyone have to say, when Osama bin Laden is caught from Abbottabad, why does anyone have to say the world was watching? In the words of the Lieutenant General,
but the world was also, watching
from where Osama bin Laden was being caught.
Yeah. All right. Respond. Yeah.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
You see, the world was also watching that Osama bin Laden was pushed in from Afghanistan to Pakistan. And the world was also watching that the US invaded Afghanistan, whereas it should have invaded somewhere else.
But General Masood, coming back to the point of General Masood, coming back to the issue of the Haqqani network, the fact is there's been several intelligence agencies across the world who have identified the Haqqani network as having bases and support across the Durand line in Pakistan. How can you deny that?
That is true. Yeah, no, I'm not denying it because it's a fact that Pakistan did not have control over its territory, and Pakistan is making huge sacrifices by, trying to re-establish its control over the territory. You are seeing that continuously Pakistani soldiers and officers are, dying and in order to achieve and to exercise writ over their areas.
May I
so
ask
why
Mr.
don't you,
I have just one comment on what General Masood has to say.
If you close your minds, and keep talking of the past, then I think we have no...
General Masood, unfinished agenda of partition is also talking of the past. I mean, by that logic, what General Sharif said today is also talking of the past.
May I come in?
Very quickly, we have 35 seconds. I'm going to give Mr. Parthasarathy 15 and
I just want to tell General Masood that the Americans, the whole world, is saying the Haqqanis is backed by the ISI and continues to do so. Not one member of the Haqqani network has been killed in 6 months of military operations. And they are an asset. Let him acknowledge that.
So, question on that. Mr. Garchu, final words, literally 10 seconds, sir.
May I just... no, is it General Masood's position that Pakistan was using terror against India and has now abandoned it? Let him answer that.
No, not at all. Position? Absolutely wrong.
How did Mumbai take place?
Absolutely wrong. What we were saying that
means
area was not under our control.
Pakistan never used terror as an instrument of policy? Something which is acknowledged worldwide?
Well, I mean, if you consider, a resistance movement as terror, then your interpretation is different to what
I think it's not just about the resistance movement. I think, I'm going to wrap this discussion up right now because we are completely out of time. We don't have more time, but India-Pakistan is a discussion that certainly in TV studios continues, even though governments are not talking. But if I can just end it on the thought that essentially until both sides agree there has to be some kind of convergence in issues. Pakistan has to give more on Mumbai, on 26/11 investigations, and perhaps the government here has to reassess its strategy on dialogue. We've heard Sushma Swaraj talk about some 3 conditions this weekend. We'll see where those lead us in the course of the next few months. That's all we have time for on the left, right and centre. Thank you all for watching.